Welcome everybody to another episode of Recruiters with No Limits. Always live and never scripted. I'm here with my sidekick and co-host, John Ruffini. What's up, Johnny?
Good afternoon, Richard.
Brother, it's summertime. I had to bring the tank out today, John. You know, you got the suit on. I got the tank, man.
You know, that's only because I don't have the guns that you have, Richard.
Here we go. But you know what? In a couple more weeks, it'll be dog days of summer, right? Man, summer is flying by. But hey, look, here we go. You ready for our guest today, John? I think you know her, right?
Absolutely. I know her. It's so good to see her. I haven't seen her in many years.
So I want you to introduce her, John. Go for it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you. We have the pleasure of having Melody Rivera on with us. She works for the Backrack Group up in the Northeast out of Connecticut. And Melody, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do and a little bit about the Backrack Group to get us started.
Sure. I joined the Backrack Group. It's going to be 6 years actually in September, but I've been in recruiting for about 11 years now. I actually started off in technology recruiting straight out of college, and then I transitioned actually into recruiting for human resources, where I worked with you previously. So I think John is being a little modest, but John is like one of my biggest mentors that I've had in my career. So I owe him a lot, actually.
Okay.
I'm based in Stanford. I'm originally from New York, and we have a team here. We've been experiencing a lot of growth. The Backrack Group, we're a privately owned company. We've been established now for, I think, 47 years. And
Wow.
I think we're probably going to be expanding to probably our 15th office location. We're full service. So in terms of lines of business, our company recruits for accounting, finance, financial services, risk, real estate, healthcare, legal. We have office support. We have corporate services. My focus is recruiting for human resources. We have a sister company called Source Labs that specializes in digital recruiting as well. And then we also have another sister company called Jackson Lucas that specializes in retained search.
You just
Holy
do it
cow.
all.
Yeah.
All inclusive, John, right? Holy cow.
Whatever you need. It sounds like the company's got a division and a recruiter that can help you, which is awesome.
I like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So all right. So your focus is in the HR sector, and it's interesting because a lot of recruiters, they're told that HR is the bad guy. Like we're trying to we're competing with HR, which isn't always the case. I always said that the best relationships are when you're working together with HR to solve a problem. But your client is HR. What are some of the nuances that come with that?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's necessarily like nuances. I mean, I partner with various clients. So we're industry agnostic. I would say our clients tend to be anywhere from non-for-profit. We work a lot within the entertainment or marketing, lots of technology companies, lots of law firms, accounting, financial services, consulting. So I think probably the only trend amongst all of our clients is that they tend to prefer candidates that might be in recent industries. I think they just feel that they understand the line of business. There's less of a learning curve. So that might be the only thing that we have to factor probably the most when partnering with human resources. So our law firm clients, they tend to prefer law firm candidates. Our tech companies tend to prefer people out of tech. So that tends to be the norm when partnering with human resources for their internal hiring needs.
So not entirely different from other verticals, because the industry experience tends to go a long way. What are you seeing in the market? How did COVID impact your vertical, meaning the HR world? And what are you seeing now in the market as far as trends and activity?
I think full transparency during the pandemic, it was a little bit scary for most of my clients. A lot of them went on hiring freezes. A lot of them didn't really necessarily have work from home capabilities, and they had to adjust quickly just because they had work that needed to be done. So I think that what we had to factor in was clients adapting, working remotely, and I guess being comfortable with moving forward and hiring people and having them work from home and being productive. So that was something that was an adjustment for most of my clients. So I think that during the pandemic, if anything, it was kind of fun and exciting because everyone was working from home. And I think candidates were very excited. I think a lot of companies realized how productive people could be working from home. So that was like the one cool thing because of the pandemic. Is companies being more open-minded to candidates working remote or candidates being kind of geographically based anywhere aside from the HQ that we were recruiting for.
Makes sense. Are you seeing? So we had someone on recently that said that they work with another recruiting firm, different vertical, but they said that post pandemic, what they're struggling with now is candidates that only want to work remote and don't want to go in the office at all, but yet they still want opportunities for growth within that firm and that company. Are you seeing that on your end as well?
Right. So I would say over the past maybe 3 to 4 months, we've definitely been getting a lot more positions that are on site and companies trying to get candidates to come back to the office. So instead of maybe working from home, I would say maybe in April, companies started doing 2 days a week from home and then 3 days a week on site. I will say I'm starting to get more searches that might be at least 3 to 4 days a week on site. And depending on our industries, like my real estate companies, my healthcare companies, a lot of my social services clients, they're back on site 5 days a week.
Wow.
So I would say probably the only types of companies that seem to be holding on to the remote flexibility might be my clients within cybersecurity. I think it's also a specialized skill set. They tend to prefer other candidates out of that space. And all those companies tend to still operate remotely. So they're just trying to remain competitive. I have had candidates reach out to me because of the fact that their companies are making them come back to the office, but I don't really have any 100% remote positions anymore. Everything has been becoming hybrid, I would say, if not more so 4 days a week minimum.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of turnover we experience for companies that start to demand their employees to come back to work 5 days a week when they've either been 100% remote or allowing a hybrid, and all of a sudden this transition. It's a really tough time for companies because they've got to figure out, all right, what do we do? It's very unsettling for a company's culture because when you don't have people in every day and half are in today and half are in tomorrow and sometimes nobody's in, it's hard to discover or kind of figure out what is your corporate culture, what do you have here. And then there's some companies that just decided, well, we want remote during COVID and we're going to stay that way. So It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. You mentioned candidates reaching out to you. I'd be curious to see over the next 3 to 6 months how much that happens even more so.
No, it's been pretty busy. I would say I still have candidates reaching out to me proactively, maybe not being aggressive looking, but just being curious about what's going on in the market. I will say I'm hearing a lot from candidates that might work at technology startups right now or financial technology startups. Fintech, it depends on the firm. It's been doing okay. I do notice some of our startups, they haven't been doing so hot given what's going on in the market. So I know some of our clients within technology are in hiring freezes. I'm going to say that I have had a few candidates working in financial services and banking reach out to me recently because their role was recently impacted. So I would say financial services and fintech, I guess, depending on the stage of the company and the funding that they have, they've been experiencing some changes, unfortunately.
What do you see as what is your biggest struggle with recruiting these days with the candidate base?
I think it could be a combination of what clients are seeking from a level of experience perspective and what candidates are seeking as it relates to compensation. That tends to be some challenges that I am facing right now. I think during the pandemic, a lot of candidates as it relates to comp, the market has definitely changed. One of my least favorite questions that clients ask me is, what is market rate? I mean, that's
a loaded question.
Wow.
It's a loaded question. That's like my least favorite role. this amount of years of experience, how much is someone like this earning? And I'm just like, I'm like, oh boy, because, I think the market has changed. I think candidates are being paid very, very competitively right now. So right now it's been a combination of budget that our team is facing when we're trying to approach candidates. A lot of companies, depending on the role, especially if they're like equity oriented or stock, like that's another pickle that I face, especially when I work with a lot of startups, just because things are so undefined. So they might have base salaries, they might have bonus, but it might be discretionary, not a concise target. And a lot of candidates, they're very financially sound. They have lots of shares. So it's been very interesting. Some companies we try to poach out of, they have unlimited PTO, and the clients that we partner with are not at that level yet. So it's a combination of the perks that candidates are receiving, their comp, any types of jobs that we have where there's on-site requirements. We get a lot of pushback from candidates about that, but we do find the right person eventually. It's just not like the same turnaround for sure.
Time out. Did you say poach? Are you poaching people?
Coach.
What's that? What's that word? I'm not going to talk about that. That's why I'm called the shark, right? Fight it.
She was talking about what she had for breakfast. She poached eggs, Richard.
Oh, how much bait are you giving these candidates? Huh? Oh my
Hey, in the world of recruiting, we always used to say there are two types of companies: those you recruit for and those you recruit from. I mean, it's just the way the world goes around. Hate to say it, but
hey, Melody, I got to ask you. So, what's the big demands of all these candidates coming in? They're not really ready to like pull the gun. Besides the money, what else are they asking for?
I think that it depends on the candidate and the stage of life that they're at. I think maybe for my more like emerging candidates, they're seeking very like competitive benefits. I think maybe for our candidates who are kind of like building out their family, like a common thing that they've been asking is what does kind of like the Family Leave Act or like paternal leave or maternity leave look like? So I would say perks as it relates to paid time off and quality of life. I think that's like the biggest feedback that I've received from a lot of our candidates after this pandemic is like, I think that they're just trying to do their best to appreciate what they have, and them being at home all this time with their family, they're realizing like money isn't everything. And a lot of them want to have the ability to be with their family and not miss out on certain moments. I would say that's been a common theme amongst my candidates.
Do you see companies that are outsourcing instead of using like maybe just find a recruiter, they're just outsourcing the whole thing to big companies?
I mean, I could only think of like a RPO model that I've seen. I haven't really seen much as it relates to like offshoring. If you kind of related to that, I have not seen that personally. It's very interesting. I think especially us right now, we do have a couple of clients where we are an RPO for. That's the only thing I've seen, and I think it's just because a lot of companies haven't really been sure about like their headcount for next year. So this is why, and also they don't have the time. A lot of people in HR, recruiting is not necessarily their favorite thing. So I think it's just kind of easier for them to kind of do this model for them. So this way we're kind of doing end-to-end recruitment. We have a client like that right now within the financial services space that one of my colleagues is managing. And they're really happy with it. And I think it just works for them until they really understand what next year looks like. And if they do feel that they're going to experience the same type of growth, and if they do feel like they'll need a dedicated resources. So it's not a lot that I've seen personally. I hope that makes sense.
No, perfectly. So do you see, I got to ask you, so HR candidates, do you see them send you resumes that have no HR experience and they say they can do it all? Are you seeing people just throwing resumes at you and saying they can do human resource?
Well, I would say that I get a lot of referrals. I don't post as much. I do encourage my other associates to post like more, just so that
you don't post, you poach. No, I'm just kidding. I had to say that again.
I do feel like I personally achieve more success with direct sourcing just based off the client needs, but for our other associates here, we do encourage them to post. We are getting a lot of like traffic and brand recognition when we do that, but I think the applicants are not necessarily right for our job, so to speak. I do get referrals occasionally from my friends, former coworkers, clients and candidates that I place that, hey, I have someone who recently, graduated. They're interested in, pursuing a career in HR. And, I'm very transparent with my candidates that being that clients are approaching me, they're paying us fees and they're paying us to vet folks with recent and current HR experience. And I typically take the call and I say that, it's not that I don't feel like they're able to achieve obtaining an HR position on their own. I just don't feel like I might necessarily be the right source for them because of the fact clients are paying me a fees. But I do see a lot of candidates. I was actually doing a search today for an HR coordinator job, and I'm trying to find people with recent HR experience. And I see a lot of people that are now HR coordinators. They didn't have that experience. So I think anyone's able to obtain any career that they can. I just wouldn't necessarily say that it's our sweet spot to place people unless they have prior experience within human resources.
Okay.
You mentioned that. It's sometimes the education aspect of our business as recruiters is often undervalued, and sometimes people don't understand how recruiters operate. And what you said was very important, because candidates a lot of times candidates will say, oh, they couldn't place me. They told me I wasn't qualified. And it's not that you're not qualified. To your point, Melody, recruiters are paid for by the companies that hire people from them. And people have to understand that because they're paying a fee, the recruiter has to deliver something that is ready to step in and do the job immediately. They've got to have the experience that the company wants. So to your point, it's not that you meet people that couldn't grow into the job and might be able to get it on their own, but through a recruiter, it might not be the best vehicle. And it's important for people to and that's not the recruiter's fault. That's just the way the industry, that's the way the industry works.
Exactly.
So true.
Yep, I agree.
So I got to ask you on a side note here, Mel. You're from New York right now. Are you a Yankee fan or Mets fan? I got to throw that out there.
Uh-oh.
My boss will be pissed if I say this, but I am a Yankee fan. My family's from the Bronx, so that's the disclaimer.
Then you have to be a Yankee fan.
Office is our Yankee fans. I'll actually send you, John, a cute picture of us when we had our wear your favorite jersey day when it was the MLB opening. So we all dressed up in Yankees attire, but my entire New York City office, they are all Mets fans, including the president of our company. I know he would not like that. And by the way, I don't know if you ever check this out. So TVG, our colors in blue and orange. So yes, my boss is
not coincidental, I assume.
There's the behind the scenes.
My office, I know you can't see it. We have orange chairs. So my chair is orange, and then we have blue columns. So yes, our company is very Mets oriented.
Wow.
Richard, are you Mets oriented?
I'm a Red Sox fan for life. So,
so you would fit in well in my neck of the woods. There's a lot of Red Sox folks
No Yankees here. And Johnny, what's your team?
I'm not a huge baseball fan, but my allegiance goes back to where I grew up. I like the Nationals. I follow the Nationals because I grew up outside of DC. So I like the Orioles too. They were obviously a local favorite before DC got a team again. Oddly enough, though, when it really I don't watch a lot of baseball, but my favorite team of all time is the Oakland A's.
Oh yeah, Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco.
When I was a kid, they won 3 World Series back to back to back, and I just thought they had the coolest looking uniforms ever, and various combinations.
And what was their nickname, John? The Bash Brothers. Remember that?
Bash Brothers, absolutely. So I've always been a lifelong fan of the Oakland A's, but from a loyalty perspective, I've got to go loyal with the Nats.
Okay, there it is. Well, final question I got to ask you before we wrap things up, because we're short on time here. But what's the length of an HR candidate coming into your office till they get hired? Is there do you guys have an average on that?
It's a great question.
It depends on the level. And also how long has the requisition been open from the client's perspective, and how much talent they've already seen. I would say like junior positions, it could be maybe a month and a half if it's perm, or if it's temp or temp to perm, because we also do contract as well, even less sometimes. And then I would say some of our senior searches, I might have like had recs open for maybe like 2, maybe 3 months.
Okay.
Maybe my longest rec, this was back in the day at Ronstadt, John, was for an energy company. I won't say the name, but it was for a benefits manager job. And the company was just so big and complex in terms of org structure. I was just like, I'm never going to place this woman. It took 7 months. That's probably the longest search I've ever had. She's still there, though.
Was that because of, well, that's a good sign. Was that because of a very long, drawn-out interview process?
So this was back with my former leader's client. So it wasn't my client per se. I don't really know what it was. Back then, I was just focusing on the candidate side, John. So
Gotcha.
I didn't have direct access to this client.
That's really hard to keep candidates interested if it drags out that long.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've ever held a search like that long anymore. Maybe like on average, like two months. And then on top of that, Richard, like some of our candidates, they want to provide like notice. A lot of my candidates want anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Some of my candidates in financial services are contractually obligated to provide 60 days notice. So that we're factoring that. Well, some of these large banks and some of their levels.
As a recruiter, that scares the heck out of me.
Well, people at that level, John, like the senior level folks, they're very thoughtful. And the beauty about recruiting for HR is they're very courteous, these candidates. They always keep you in the loop. I actually am very lucky. I feel for my colleagues who recruit for accounting and finance and financial services. Like, oof, that's ruthless. I'm like, our candidates are so nice. They treat us with respect. I really don't have like such terrible issues. Very once in a blue, once in a nugget, one nugget here.
Well, if you ever get bored and you want to come to the light industrial side, let me know. It's entertainment 24/7.
I think I'm good, Richard. You enjoy that space.
I tip my hat to anybody who does light industrial, because that is so hard and in demand and necessary, but man, is it a lot of work.
Every day is a different day.
I know it. I hear you.
You do you, Richard. You do you. I'm good in my neck of the woods.
That's why I wear flip-flops to work. I can do whatever I want there, because you never know who's going to walk in the door. Hey, Johnny, any final thoughts on our episode today, man? Wow.
You know, it's wonderful having you on, and great to see you, Melody. Thanks for being here. The thing that I want people to take home is, you know, if you are a company and you're looking to hire people, be in tune with what your candidates are looking for, and in order to be competitive to attract the talent. Someone like a Melody at a recruiting firm, and that's all that she does day in and day out is work with companies to find talent. Align yourself with someone that you trust, and, you know, get in tune with what your candidate pool is looking for. And there's a lot of companies that may need to adjust how they function and how they operate going forward if they want to attract the right talent. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds.
So true. And Melanie, where can everybody see you at? I know you're on LinkedIn. Are you on any other platforms that they can reach out to you if there's any candidates out there looking for a job?
I mean, my LinkedIn has my email address. It's melodyr@backrackgroup.com, and I'm happy to help anyone. But LinkedIn is great. And then my email is very accessible. I check it all the time, probably more than what I should. But I'm here. If any HR folks want to talk to me or have exploratory, I would love to help anyone.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. My final thoughts are, go Mets, go Red Sox. I'm leaving on that note. Hey, everybody, have a great 4th of July weekend. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank
Take care.
you. Bye.